no prayer.
It's pure evil.
Or chant. Or song. That can save your daughter.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2022 horror film The Harbinger, a film that is co-written and directed by Will Kipstein, who also stars in the film, as well as Amanda McDonald, Madeline McGraw, Steve Monroe, and Irene Bedard. Right. The film focuses on a family, a husband and wife, played by Will Kipstein and Amanda McDonald, who have got like a young daughter. Now, this young daughter, it would appear, is a little bit different, but in actual fact, what has happened is, see if I can try and explain this as best I can without giving spoilers away. The father is approached by what essentially is a crossroads demon from Supernatural. So it's like a demon that approaches him and offers him a deal, because essentially he was into finances. He did a really dodgy deal. It looks like he's facing jail, so he's approached by this demon that offers him this deal. He refuses this deal, does the right thing, but this demon then possesses his daughter's spirit. And kind of basically give him no choice, and he has to then go to this town and collect souls for this demon. But again, he is resisting, and he's looking for ways to save his daughter without giving in completely to this demon. Right, what are my thoughts on The Harbinger? Well, this is in some ways a pretty decent watch. What I essentially mean there is that even though this is a low-budget film, there are some decent production values here, and the performances throughout are of a good standard, and certainly keep you engaged in the film. The story itself initially is quite simple. Early on in the film, it feels like a bit like an Omen story, The Omen. You've got this sacred dagger that is needed for this, that, and the other, and then it starts. As the film progresses on, it starts dipping its toes into other horror genres. Like I say, there's aspects of it that remind you of Supernatural. There's aspects of it that reminded me of Poltergeist 2, especially. It all gets a bit angel-y and demon-y, and there's even some ghosts thrown in for good measure. What I'm trying to say is that initially what starts out at what you think is like a Omen type story with this possessed child literally becomes so much more, and that's not necessarily a compliment, because for me it absolutely confused the story and made a simple story actually quite confusing and convoluted, which I thought was a really, really, really big shame. You get to a cut-off point in this film where it just kind of falls off a cliff in regards to it. Just literally, it's almost like it's got a recipe book. It's got to a certain point in the film and they're kind of thinking, the taste of it is a bit bland, is that, guys? It'll probably be all right, but I think that's going to be a bit bland for many people's tastes. So what it then does, it gets every ingredient off the shelf and throws all these ingredients into the pot to try and spice it up a little bit. And it becomes overbearing then, which I thought was a real shame, because, as I've said, there's some real aspects of this story that I thought really worked the film. I thought it was a fairly simple plot, but what was keeping me happy initially was the performances were all fine. Even the child actor was very good. Madeline McGraw, I think she's called, who played the daughter Rosalie. She was fine. It was a bit creepy, things going on, and you knew there was something under the surface. But when it actually gets to revealing the stuff under the surface, it's like there's like red herrings everywhere. There's demons, there's angels, there's ghosts, and it's just like, what is going on? It all gets really, really silly from my perspective, and I just thought it was a real shame. It's almost like it got to a point in the film that they just threw everything and the kitchen sink at it to try and make it, I don't know. It didn't really make the film any scarier. And I don't think they actually realised if they kind of stripped it back to basics what they actually had here was a fairly simple, decent, creepy story. And they could have sewn in like the demon stuff because, in my opinion, they had some really cool demon effects later on in the film. You know, this like crossroads. I'm going to call it a crossroads demon. It's not crossroads demon, but that's how it acts. If you know how they act in Supernatural, making deals with people, and the deals it makes with people, they then become this demon's harbinger, and they kind of go around and like get people's souls for this demon sort of thing. But when you actually see this demon in its true form, I thought it was very effective. I would have liked to have seen more of that. It all gets a bit melodramatic by the end. It all gets a bit cryptic by the end. And the film is just absolutely jam-packed with loads of MacGuffins, like ancient keys, ancient daggers, and ancient spheres. They all do different things, and then you go into these tombs. On this side of the tomb, it's the demon's territory. On this side of the tomb, it's the sacred territory. And you can't cross over. And you're just like, oh, what's going on? It's just getting too confusing for me, this. So I think, unfortunately, I think if they just strip this down a little bit, it's too long as well. It's almost 2 hours too long. I think they could have shaved a good 15, 20 minutes off this film. Got rid of some of the unnecessary plot lines and storylines and really give us a really nice, focused film. Fortunately, what we get is something that's a little bit convoluted and confused, which is a real shame because I do think this had potential, this film. But I'm still going to give it a 5 out of 10 because I do think there is some potential here. There are some nice moments in it. Unfortunately, though, I think ultimately it fails to deliver. So that's my review for The Harbinger. I hope you liked it. I hope you found it useful. I will, of course, be back with more content on the channel very, very soon.